Atlanta's most dangerous neighborhoods. There are many reasons why Atlanta is a great place to live or visit. It has a thriving economy, a nice climate, and a rich cultural scene. While Atlanta has a higher crime rate than most major U.S. cities, most parts of the city are relatively safe. Although there is a strong police presence downtown, there may be some safety concerns in other areas. The most common crimes in Atlanta include arson, burglary, and car theft. Violent crimes such as murder and assault also occur as well.
One is the shooter, another is a man who sat nearby as the man was killed. 3 others came up on the man's body and seemed to have stolen from him as he lay dying on the ground. This happened on Cleveland Avenue in Atlanta.
Zone 1, West Side. Vine City. Vine City is bounded by Joseph E. Boone Boulevard, formerly known as Simpson Road, and the English Avenue neighborhood to the north, Northside Drive, and downtown Atlanta to the east, Martin Luther King Jr. Drive and the Atlanta University Center to the south, and Joseph E. Lowery Boulevard and the Washington Park neighborhood to the west. This neighborhood, along with adjacent English Avenue, is known as the Bluff and is one of the most dangerous places to live in Atlanta. Vine City crime rates are 211% higher than the national average. Violent crimes in Vine City are 457% higher than the national average. You have a 1 in 14 chance of becoming a victim of crime. Vine City is one of the earliest and most diverse neighborhoods of Atlanta. After the Great Fire of 1917, the black population of the neighborhood grew. The fire destroyed parts of the Sweet Auburn area of Atlanta and led to successful African American business people relocating to Vine City. During the early 20th century, Vine City was considered by many to be the most prestigious address for African Americans.
Erica, this happened early this morning in the Vine City neighborhood, not too far from the Bends. What else have you learned?
Christy, we are here near the corner of Joseph E. Lowery and Martin Luther King Drive, where police say this deadly shooting happened near this barber and beauty salon that you can see behind me. Now, police are saying that 2 people were shot just before 1 a.m. this morning. One of those victims has succumbed to their injuries. There's still some crime scene tape just a couple doors down from where the shooting happened. I did speak with a man who has been out here selling books on the corner of Joseph E. Lowery and MLK every single day for the last 7 years, and he says that this area can be very dangerous.
Alonzo Herndon, who was born into slavery in 1858, became Atlanta's first black millionaire. He owned several barber shops throughout the city and was the founder and president of the Atlanta Life Insurance Company. In 1941, the Eden Homes and Herndon Homes public housing projects opened, and as a result, the black population in the area increased. Herndon Homes was later used as a filming location for the motion picture The Lottery Ticket in 2010. By the 1960s, the neighborhood had started to decline. The area showed slum conditions, vacant lots, blight, and decaying apartment buildings. Vine City battled unemployment and crime with attempts to revitalize the neighborhoods. However, by the 1970s, the Vine City neighborhood had deteriorated into a corner of poverty. Today, Vine City continues to struggle with almost 50% of families living below the poverty level. Vine City also served as a film location for the groundbreaking film Snow on the Bluff, giving viewers an unfiltered look at the life of Curtis Snow in the streets of the Bluff. English Avenue. English Avenue is bounded by the railroad line and the Marietta Street Artery neighborhood to the northeast, Northside Drive, the North Avenue Rail Yards, and downtown Atlanta to the east, Joseph E. Lowery Boulevard, formerly Ashby Street, and the Bankhead neighborhood to the west, and Joseph E. Boone Boulevard and Vine City to the south. English Avenue is a neighborhood in Atlanta closely associated with rapper Rollo and his music, as it reflects the struggles and realities of street life in the city. Both English Avenue and the Bluff have been portrayed in various artistic works, including music and film, highlighting issues like poverty, crime, and community resilience.
We'll get done. Let's go around. Oh yeah, he was running for pizza.
Oh.
Keep your box. We gonna go around the corner.
Go ahead.
Keep your box. We going right around the corner. Come on, I have a box right here. Baby, y'all hungry? Got pizza and shit. We need to go down here. I see some kids down here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Want some pizza? Nigga, I remember you. You remember me?
Yeah.
I took you shopping. I got your haircut.
Yeah, that's him.
Really? Is that me?
Yeah, that's you. That's me and you. OG, you hungry? We good? OG said he don't want that shit. Want some more pizza?
Police can't stop shit. That roller record?
You hungry, OG? Want some pizza?
I'm good on you.
You want some pizza?
The violent crime rate in English Avenue is 2,060 per 100,000 people. Some of the most common crimes in the neighborhood include assaults, robberies, and drug offenses. What is now the English Avenue neighborhood was purchased in 1891 by son of Atlanta Mayor James W. English. It was created as a white working-class neighborhood. Simpson Road was located along a residential race barrier with whites to the north and blacks to the south. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. moved to the area in 1967, and his widow Coretta Scott King continued to live there until she moved to a Peachtree Road luxury condominium purchased for her by Oprah Winfrey in 2004. In November 1994, the Atlanta Empowerment Zone was established, a 10-year, $250 million federal program to revitalize Atlanta's 34 poorest neighborhoods, including the Bluff. The English Avenue community had fallen into decay in the 1990s and early 2000s. Over the past 50 years, the community had been displaced by outward migration, leaving vacant, blighted properties scattered throughout the neighborhoods and lacking community resources. Due to this, some residents turned to drugs and crime as a means of obtaining their income, which in turn led to an outbreak of violence. National media quickly became aware of robberies, homicides, and arrests in the neighborhood. Grove Park. Grove Park is a West Side Atlanta neighborhood bounded by Center Hill on the west, Dixie Hills, West Lake, and Hunter Hills on the south, Bankhead on the east, Almond Park, West Highlands, and Rockdale to the north. Grove Park crime rates are 192% higher than the national average. Violent crimes in Grove Park are 538% higher than the national average. You have a 1 in 15 chance of becoming a victim of crime. Prior to 1960, Grove Park and Center Hill were all white communities. African Americans began to move into these areas during the 1960s, primarily as an offshoot of growth in the Collier Heights neighborhood. The area was stable until the early 1970s, when suburban growth began to drain the area's vitality. As a result, many longtime businesses closed and were replaced by low-rent business, and as population decreased, the area began to deteriorate. In fact, through the turn of the 21st century, the entire area witnessed a steady decline in population, property conditions, and the local economy. However, conditions in the area have changed over the past few years as the current trend towards in-town living gains popularity. Neighborhoods throughout the city, and especially Northwest Atlanta, are experiencing a resurgence of development, including new infill residential units and subdivisions, as well as major renovations. Notable gangs and hoods. Dixie Hills. Right off of now Joseph E. Boone Boulevard is Dixie Hills, one of the West Side's oldest and original all-black hoods, going back to the 1930s. In 1967, Atlanta historian Franklin Garrett described Dixie Hills as an area of small, neat, middle-class homes of African Americans. Near the edge lies a large, low-rent, privately owned apartment complex which curves around a small shopping center. Simpson Road, renamed Joseph E. Boone Boulevard, was one of the main sections of Zone 1's West Side. Originally home to multiple housing complexes. Center Hill, West Side Bankhead, home of rapper T.I. Bowen Homes, home of late rapper Shawty Low, Evander Holyfield, and Chop Boys. Built during the 1960s, Bowen Homes was one of the last projects in the city to be torn down.
I'm gonna take it down the street, man. We're right here at 2610, man. My studio, man. I'm trying to get my home still. I'm gonna preview that real shit, man. I don't let it bring you on that Bankhead like they here, man. No security, man. Walk down the booth where you want to. Whatever we want to do, nigga. Walk down there, take it to the hood net, man. It's yellow. I ain't give up the streets. Just had to, you know what I'm saying, I had to just transfer my, you know what I'm saying, my work. You know, my work, you know what I'm saying, over to something, you know what I'm saying, positive, man, cause, you know, goddamn folks trying to clamp down on my ass. They trying to clamp down on my ass, man, but you know, all I did, you know what I'm saying, stop doing, you know what I'm saying, stop doing so much and just put it in rhymes, baby, you know. I got y'all in the hood. I told you yesterday when I did the interview with y'all over the phone, I could bring you back here, man. Find any other rebel. Hey, Jumanji, tell them where we at, Jumanji. Get Jumanji. Tell them where we at, Jumanji. Tell them where we at, Jumanji.
Hell, I've been up there fucking off.
Tell them where we at.
We're in the bricks, B-Town. One original that they won't tear down. Hello.
Bankhead Courts. Once home to D4L's Fabo and rapper Young Dro. Bankhead Courts were built during the 1970s and demolished by the 2010s. Perry Homes. Once home to the infamous West Side crew the Diablos. Hollywood Courts. Zone 6, East Atlanta. Edgewood/Kirkwood. Kirkwood, Atlanta is a historic neighborhood on the east side of Atlanta. It is situated entirely in DeKalb County, bordered by the neighborhoods of Lake Claire, East Lake, Edgewood, and Oakhurst. Once nicknamed Lil Mexico and home to Casino, Young Scooter, and Future. Edgewood is a neighborhood located on the east side, approximately 3 miles east of downtown Atlanta. Home to Trouble, Alley Boy, Big Bank, and Ola Runt. Edgewood-Kirkwood crime rates are 91% higher than the national average. Violent crimes in Edgewood-Kirkwood are 65% higher than the national average. In Edgewood-Kirkwood, you have a 1 in 23 chance of becoming a victim of crime. By the 1900s, Edgewood had become a full town. The town of Edgewood was annexed into the city of Atlanta in 1910, along with East Atlanta Village and Kirkwood as Atlanta's new 9th Ward. In exchange for being annexed into the city, Edgewood received the benefits of new sidewalks, public water, and electricity. While Edgewood Avenue was named for Edgewood and stretches from downtown Atlanta in the direction of Edgewood, the avenue does not quite reach the neighborhood. Kirkwood, along with Edgewood, has seen many changes and challenges over the years.
I pass him and I immediately get alarmed.
Salon owner Kelsey Womack remembers the first time a knife-wielding man showed up on this block in this Kirkwood neighborhood.
Came back to the business, tried to warn all the clients and the staff that there was somebody out there who didn't look sane, whichever with a weapon. And
however it looked, well, it didn't add up to breaking the law. Atlanta police, neighbors say, have been called repeatedly since he moved in over the summer, next door to the hair salon and to a candy shop.
It was once a thriving streetcar suburb with its own city government and services, but it also faced urban decline, crime, and racial tensions. In the 1940s and 1950s, Kirkwood experienced demographic changes as more African Americans moved into the neighborhood, seeking better housing and opportunities. This caused some white residents to leave Kirkwood for other areas, resulting in racial segregation and tension. Some of the historic homes in Kirkwood were divided into apartments or left vacant and neglected. In the 1960s and 1970s, Kirkwood suffered from urban decline in crime as many businesses closed or moved away, and many residents struggled with poverty and unemployment. The neighborhood also faced environmental issues such as pollution and flooding. Some of the landmarks in Kirkwood were demolished or damaged by fire or vandalism. From the 1990s into the 2010s, Kirkwood and Edgewood have experienced much gentrification. Old Fourth Ward. The Old Fourth Ward, often abbreviated O4W, is an in-town neighborhood on the east side of Atlanta. The neighborhood is best known as the location of the Martin Luther King Jr. Historic Site. The Old Fourth Ward's borders are Piedmont Avenue on the west, the Beltline on the east, Ponce de Leon Avenue to the north, Marta Green Line and Oakland Cemetery to the south. Old Fourth Ward crime rates are 141% higher than the national average. Violent crimes in Old Fourth Ward are 164% higher than the national average. You have a 1 in 18 chance of becoming a victim of crime. As with most of in-town Atlanta, the Old Fourth Ward declined precipitously during the 1950s and 1960s as wealthier residents moved further out from central neighborhoods. Streets, houses, and businesses that sat upon the land that is now Freedom Parkway were also raised to make way for a freeway that was never built. What was once a consistent and dense grid pattern of streets is now difficult to recognize, with Freedom Parkway occupying what had once been multiple city blocks. The neighborhood can be divided into 3 areas, with Freedom Parkway and Boulevard serving as dividing lines.
Tonight,
fighting back against crime in Old Fourth Ward after a gang-related shooting. 7 people were shot this morning in what police call a targeted attack.
Our very own Hope Forward shows us how neighbors are now working on a solution to make their communities safer.
Every 2 months, if that, every 2 to 3 months.
A retaliation shooting between 2 gangs in Old Fourth Ward off Parkway Drive, an area where some say there isn't enough police.
We got kids that stay out here. Somebody need to do something for real, because that's crazy. We got security right there.
But police are already well familiar with the area and its challenges.
The entire time I've been here, it's been something of a drug market over there. As we pick one person off, somebody else fills that spot.
Boulevard itself, in the 1890s described as one of the most desirable residence streets in the city, has for decades been notorious citywide as a center of crime and drug activity, as well as the highest concentration of Section 8 housing in the southeastern United States. Boulevard witnessed a steady decline. The road is lined with apartment buildings, most of which are now Section 8 housing. Boulevard became infamous throughout Atlanta and beyond as a haven of drug activity, prostitution, and other crime, a reputation that endured into the 2010s despite gentrification to the north, south, east, and west of the street. Gentrification of the Old Fourth Ward began in the 1980s and continued at a more rapid pace during the first decade of the 2000s. New apartment and condo complexes with ground floor retail sprung up, particularly along the Beltline, Ponce de Leon Avenue, North Avenue, and Highland Avenue. Sweet Auburn. The Sweet Auburn Historic District is a historic African-American neighborhood along and surrounding Auburn Avenue, east of downtown Atlanta. The name Sweet Auburn was coined by civil rights activist and businessman John Wesley Dobbs, referring to the richest Negro street in the world, one of the largest concentrations of African-American businesses in the United States. Sweet Auburn crime rates are 186% higher than the national average. Violent crimes in Sweet Auburn are 262% higher than the national average. You have a 1 in 16 chance of becoming a victim of crime.
Neighbors say the late-night ongoing weekend parties here on Edgewood Avenue haven't calmed down throughout the summer, and they're fed up. Concerns over these weekend crowds on Edgewood Avenue continue. Neighbors in the Sweet Auburn area say they've been dealing with the late-night noise, partying, and at times gun violence.
And I'm angry. I'm extremely angry.
Richard Williams lives in the area. He says he and his neighbors have tried to do what they can to get help. That includes reaching out to city council and police. However, he says they haven't gotten much of an answer. At this point, he says the partying on weekends is like clockwork, and he's worried for their safety. So much so, Williams and his neighbor Martin Zavala agreed to speak to us only by phone without showing their faces. At least 3 other neighbors reached out but declined to go on record.
I have now on 2 different occasions have yet had to yell at my girlfriend to get down because I didn't know where gunshots were coming from next to my house.
Without really any agenda, I think we all just seek to find a peaceful solution so that everybody feels safe.
The way I feel.
Earlier this summer, businesses on Edgewood Avenue formed the Sweet Auburn Coalition, telling 11 Alive in June they've also had it. And just about a month later, on July 4th weekend, 14 people were shot. 2 of them died. Investigators said the violence stemmed from a car hitting someone in the crowds that night. This situation, an example of why neighbors say they need help to get rid of the chaos and not the fun.
The rise of Auburn Avenue as the black business district in Atlanta was to a great extent an outcome of the 1906 Atlanta race riot. Prior to this time, black businesses operated largely in downtown Atlanta. Sweet Auburn was designated a National Historic Landmark in 1976. However, like so many other inner-city neighborhoods, Sweet Auburn fell victim to lack of investment, heavy, widespread crime, homelessness, and abandonment, compounded by construction of the downtown connector freeway that split it in two. Construction of the highway occurred throughout the 1950s, physically bisecting the Sweet Auburn community, while officials provided little to no replacement housing for those displaced by the project. The neighborhood's decline was only exacerbated when, in 1957, officials began plans for urban renewal along Auburn Avenue, allocating federal funds of over $21 million towards slum clearance in the area. In the years following development, thousands of black businesses and families were forcibly removed from the Sweet Auburn neighborhood. Notable gangs and hoods: Mason Avenue, Edgewood Courts, 5L, Henchmen, Wheat Street Gardens, Grady Homes, Boulevard, East Atlanta, home to OJ the Juice Man, Young Nudie, and Gucci Mane. Reputable hoods and apartment complexes include Glenwood, Boulder Crest, and Sun Valley, Mountain Park, Flat Shoals, and East Hamp. East Lake Meadows. Nicknamed Little Vietnam and revered as one of Atlanta's most reputable housing projects. Opening in October of 1970, residents moved in, creating strong bonds despite the many challenges they faced. Over the next 25 years, many thousands of low-income Atlantans, mostly African American, would call it home. But as public housing in America was abandoned and stigmatized, and a crack wave swept through the neighborhood, East Lake Meadows became nearly uninhabitable. In the mid-1990s, Atlanta bulldozed the housing project to make way for new mixed-income housing.
Robbery, prostitution, killing.
Poverty, the shootings, the drug abuse.
Two guys got in a fight right across in front of my house. I saw one peep his head around the corner. Pow, pow, pow. It was just like you was in a movie, Western movie.
Eva Davis moved into Atlanta's East Lake Meadows housing project in 1971. It wasn't long before murder and mayhem became a way of life.
He ran right by my car and blood was just shooting out of his body. That guy shot him and he fell dead right before my face.
The 650-unit housing project was never great, but when drugs took over and gangs claimed turf, it went from bad to horrible in a hurry.
They would shoot and cut and stab and kill each other. That's what they did.
By 1995, the crime rate was 18 times the national average.
Zone 4, Southwest, aka SWATs. Adamsville. Adamsville is a predominantly African American neighborhood on the west side. It is located where Interstate 20 and Interstate 285 meet on the west side of Atlanta. Adamsville crime rates are 57% higher than the national average. Violent crimes in Adamsville are 159% higher than the national average. You have a 1 in 28 chance of becoming a victim of crime. Entertainers such as Killer Mike and Bone Crusher came from the Adamsville neighborhood. Adamsville is also home to the Cascade skating rink made famous in the movie ATL in 2006. Oakland City is a historic neighborhood in Zone 4 Atlanta, just southwest across the Beltline from West End and Adair Park. Home to rapper Lil Baby, who was born and raised in the neighborhood. Oakland City crime rates are 151% higher than the national average. Violent crimes in Oakland City are 334% higher than the national average. You have a 1 in 18 chance of becoming a victim of crime.
Well, Alex, we've been speaking with friends and families of the 3 victims, and it's been a very tough day. I can tell you that the shooting happened right over here at this apartment complex across the street. Neighbors also telling me, though, that the crime scene tape ended right before this sidewalk. That being said, if you look over here towards this house, right outside, laying on the ground, you can see all of these case shellings. We're seeing at least 3 different types from what we can tell. There's also shells right over here at the tire of this white car right outside of the home as well that you can see some kids over there by. Now, investigators do tell us that 2 13-year-olds died during that shooting, Jacody Davis and Lamont Freeman. A 12-year-old, that's Davis's brother, he is actually being treated at the hospital and expected to survive. A family member told us that he was shot in the foot and he's just getting out of surgery. We're told that a family member is there at the hospital waiting for him to wake up so that they can speak with him and support him. We're also told by a family member of one of the boys that this was actually the young victim's birthday. So instead of celebrations, families are going to be making arrangements for the 13-year-old. One neighbor described how the boys would go out and play with her kids, go to youth group, play sports outside. She says it's just an unbelievable tragedy that these 2 young boys lost their lives and a 3rd one was shot, overnight.
The city of Atlanta annexed Oakland City in 1910, and industrial jobs and a new rail line fueled heavy suburban development in the 1920s. The area remained primarily white working class until World War II, when large numbers of African Americans moved to the city in search of employment, and white households and investment rapidly moved out. The area became economically distressed beginning in the 1950s and early 1960s. Starting in 1976, Congressman Andrew Young initiated a program called urban homesteading, which sold dilapidated houses for $1 to individuals that would renovate them and help prevent land speculation. West End. West End is a historic neighborhood and one of the oldest outside downtown Atlanta, located southwest of Castleberry Hill, east of Westview, west of Adair Park Historic District, and just north of Oakland City. West End crime rates are 197% higher than the national average. Violent crimes in West End are 427% higher than the national average. You have a 1 in 15 chance of becoming a victim of crime.
Well, right now at 6 o'clock, we are learning some new details about a deadly shooting at a McDonald's on the West End.
Yeah, we want to take you live out there right now. Take a look here. This is the McDonald's on Ralph David Abernathy Boulevard. You could see there the McDonald's here still closed to the public. You could see some police tape there and a police presence as they investigate what is happening here. This is what we know so far. Police say just before 3 p.m. they responded to a call about someone who was shot. They found a woman there in critical condition, and she later died at the hospital. You're taking a look now at what it looked like earlier today. Police gave an update within the last hour or so. They say that this started as an argument between 2 customers that escalated to a shooting. They do have 1 woman in custody. Police say witnesses actually intervened after that shooting and held that suspect until officers arrived. They say that they are working to get surveillance video to find out more about what happened.
Interstate 20 was built across West End's northern fringe and the old business district, along with large amounts of residential housing, was demolished in favor of a mall development. Completed in 1973, the mall's accessibility was later augmented by part of the city's latest transportation system, a MARTA station, across the street. By the 2000s, much of West End still looked abandoned and blighted, but a growing wave of investment in town Southwest Atlanta began to rejuvenate the area. As West End was once described as one of Atlanta's most socially diverse and culturally rich communities, it is again returning to the tradition of its past, as it relates to the regenerating of community value and revitalization. Notable gangs and hoods: Cascade Road, Allen Temple, Campbellton Road. A large stretch of apartments and hoods like Allison Court, Shamrock, Adams Park, Appletree, and more. Ben Hill, home to rapper Rocco and legendary producer Lil Jon. Honorable mentions: East Point. Made famous by being the hometown of Outkast, East Point is a city on the south side of Atlanta, as most black families moved here during the 1960s and 1970s.
Everybody say ho, say ho, ho, say ho, say ho, 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 say ho. All right, do your city, let me hear you scream. Okay, one for the money, yes sir, two for the show. A couple of years ago, on Headland and Delowe, was the starter. Something good when me and my partner rode the water through the hood, just trying to find that hook up. Now every day we looked up at the ceiling, watching ceiling fans go round, trying to catch that feeling off instrumentals. Had my pencil and plus my paper. We caught the 86 lock on your head and do Decatur right. It runs, trying to find our spot up in that light up in that spot. Knowing that we get rocked, doing the hole in the wall club. These things it got to stop. Like freeze. We making the crowd move, but we not making no G's, and that's a no.
Decatur. The east side of Atlanta, a very large section that has been well known in the streets of Atlanta. Home to rappers Sci-Hi the Prince, Travis Porter, and 21 Savage. The actual city of Decatur is totally different from the actual section that people refer to, which includes 2nd Avenue, 1st Avenue, Kendler, McAfee, Columbia Drive, Glenwood, Wesley Chapel, and Flat Shoals. Zone 3, Southeast. Lakewood Heights. Lakewood Heights is a primarily African-American neighborhood in southeast Atlanta. It is bounded by the Villages at Carver and South Atlanta neighborhoods on the north, the Polar Rock neighborhood on the south, and the Downtown Connector on the west. Lakewood Heights crime rates are 165% higher than the national average. Violent crimes in Lakewood Heights are 300% higher than the national average. You have a 1 in 17 chance of becoming a victim of crime. The neighborhood was home to the Lakewood Fairgrounds, which until 1979 had a racetrack, Lakewood Speedway. Now the Lakewood Amphitheater is located on the old fairgrounds. Around 1970, the area began to decline as middle-class families moved away.
It does, and it is awful, and this one especially involving an elderly woman this morning. Police say that they found a lot of ballistic evidence at a Chevron gas station in southwest Atlanta after a gunman came in there around 10 p.m. last night. They say they were first called out to the scene shortly before 10 p.m., and when they got there, they found a woman suffering from a gunshot wound. This is at the Chevron gas station on Lakewood Avenue. They say a dark-colored vehicle pulled up and fired several rounds, hitting the 63-year-old woman outside of the store, all before taking off. Family members at the scene tell us her name is LaShonda Edge and that she died later from her injuries at the hospital. Police say another person was also grazed by a bullet but is okay. Again, they are searching for that suspect in a dark-colored SUV, and they are asking the public's help in finding him or her, and if you have any information, you're asked to contact them.
Adair Park. Adair Park is a historic residential neighborhood located southwest of downtown Atlanta. Bordered by the MARTA North-South Rail Line on the northwest, the Beltline Trail on the southwest, and Metropolitan Parkway on the east. Historically, Adair Park also included the area from Metropolitan Parkway to McDaniel Street on the east, but the city now considers that area part of the Pittsburgh neighborhood. Adair Park crime rates are 259% higher than the national average. Violent crimes in Adair Park are 505% higher than the national average. You have a 1 in 12 chance of becoming a victim of crime. By the 1950s, Adair Park was surrounded on all sides by neighborhoods that either always were or had transitioned to majority black. In 1955, white flight began, triggered by the sale of a single property on Beryl Street near Dewey Street to a black family. Soon Dewey, Hope and Beryl Streets had transitioned from white to black, as did Mayland Avenue and Mayland Circle in 1958. In the latter half of the 20th century, Adair Park gradually slid into decline along with the Metropolitan Parkway corridor. But by 2000, revitalization, property values, demand, and diversity gradually increased due to young professionals beginning to move back into the neighborhood, settling alongside many lifelong residents. Mechanicsville. Mechanicsville is a neighborhood in Zone 3 Atlanta. It sits just south of downtown Atlanta. The neighborhood is bounded by I-20 on the north, the I-75/I-85 downtown connector on the east, and the Southern Railway lines on the southwest. Mechanicsville crime rates are 375% higher than the national average. Violent crimes in Mechanicsville are 696% higher than the national average. You have a 1 in 10 chance of becoming a victim of crime. Mechanicsville is a neighborhood that dates back to the late 19th century. It is named after the mechanics who worked on the railway lines. There were once many prominent merchant families here, as well as working-class blacks and middle-class whites. In 1964, the Atlanta Fulton County Stadium was built just outside of the neighborhood, while highway construction on the north and east furthered destruction of the neighborhood's physical resources. In 1968, a 1,000-unit public housing complex, the McDaniel Glen Housing Project, was constructed on the western edge of Mechanicsville to house many of the displaced lower-income families in the area. From 1960 to 2000, Mechanicsville lost 2/3 of its population, dropping from 10,530 in 1960 to 3,358 in 2000. Recently, in the 2010s, Mechanicsville has undergone major revitalization due to its proximity to downtown and midtown. Middle-class families and individuals are moving back to the neighborhood. Many abandoned and damaged homes have been renovated by investors. New constructed homes are growing in the neighborhood. Economic development has improved. Property values are steadily increasing, and racial diversity is on the rise again.
Now in southwest Atlanta, where 3 people were just shot. 11 Live's Cody Alcorn live at the scene near Ralph David Abernathy in Windsor. Cody, what do we know about this?
Faith, just 2 days into the new year, we have 3 teenagers right now who have been rushed to Grady Hospital. Their conditions unknown, at least one said to be in critical condition after a shooting right here behind me on Windsor Street at Ralph David Abernathy. The homeowner of this home, you see her looking outside, says she thought what she heard was gunshots. However, she came outside and found these 3 teenagers shot in her yard, one of them making it to her front porch. They have since been taken away, and again, they are at Grady Hospital. I talked to the aunt of one of those victims. She described this as a drive-by shooting, but as you can see here on Windsor Street, homicide detectives are out here, so we are trying to learn the condition of these victims and as well as a description of this vehicle and these shooters who were here on Windsor at Ralph David Abernathy just a little while ago. And we are expecting an update from Atlanta police, so stay with us. As soon as that happens, we'll update you on the latest for these suspects and, of course, the conditions of these three teenagers, but not the way APD wanted to start the new year with these 3 teens just shot 2 days into it.
Notable gangs and hoods. Capitol Homes. Summerhill. Home to rapper YFN Lucci. Areas like Martin Street Plaza, now gentrified, a former Zone 3 reputable neighborhood of Atlanta, as the area has greatly changed since Summerhill prime days when the old Atlanta was still in effect. Much of the area has changed due to gentrification over the years. Cleveland Avenue. Zone 3 South Side. Home of Young Ralph, Pee Wee Longway, J Money, Young Thug, and the rap label of YSL. Cleveland Avenue is a long stretch from Jonesboro Road into East Point, home to mostly public housing and apartment complexes like Southtown, Heritage Green, Arcadia Downs, Pavilion Place, Colonial Square, Summerdale, Lakewood Forest, Cleveland East, Brandywine, and the Terraces. Four Seasons. Zone 3 Thomasville. Home to Young LA, the Four Seasons, or Villa Monte/Forest Cove Apartments was one of the last remaining reputable housing complexes in the heart of the city. Four Seasons was separated into 2 sections, Glock Block being the larger section, and Horseshoe. Forest Cove Apartments is often cited as an example of urban decay in Atlanta. Over the years, the complex has faced numerous challenges, including issues related to crime, neglect, and poverty. These conditions have been highlighted in media coverage and music, illustrating the struggles faced by residents. Pittsburgh. Home to late rapper Bankroll Fresh, local clique DFW, down for whatever. Home to the old Pittsburgh Civic League Apartments. Bankroll Fresh, born Trentavious Zaman White Sr. on August 2nd, 1987, was a rising rapper from Pittsburgh, southwest Atlanta. He gained recognition with street anthems like Hot Boy and was affiliated with Street Money Worldwide, his independent label. Bankroll Fresh was known for his energetic flow and contributions to the Atlanta trap music scene. Tragically, on March 4th, 2016, Bankroll Fresh was fatally shot outside Street Exec Studio in Atlanta.
Niggas right here, man. Street shit, bro.
The street.
Keep it with us. Keep it with us.
Street money shit. Fuck you talking about?
Got it on me. Keep the mask. Keep the fire.
See, I be really at the studio, bro, trying to work. See, this where a nigga come from. What's up, E? This where a nigga come from, bro, but you feel me? I be coming to bring this shit together, man. I try to get these niggas, everybody, cause we supposed to be at one, my nigga. This street money shit is for real, bro. You feel me? I got it. I'm right here. I'm the masterpiece to lead all us to the victory, my man. You feel me? Because that's what God got me here to do. You feel me? I came out these concrete. I done seen all type of shit. I could have lost my life plenty numerous occasions. Niggas coming in the house robbing, all type of shit. You feel me? So I done lived and seen it, my nigga. So God put me right here to let these motherfuckers know this shit possible, my nigga. Cause I was same nigga out here selling this shit, my nigga. Gambling, whatever nigga buy, I'm about it. However nigga will about it, I'm about it. You feel me? But I ain't trying to prove myself to no nigga. I want money, man. I want to take my nigga to the top, man. That was street money all motherfucking about. Real street niggas link up, street money worldwide.